Hashtag Justice for Velvin has been trending on social media now, calling for the arrest and arraignment of a suspect, Anthony Njenga Murimi, who they claim raped and assaulted a 24-year-old Velvin Nungari Kinyanjui. Velvin died 13 days after the incident, and those who...
Here in the country, a Kiambu court has granted detectives 10 more days to continue holding Joseph Njenga Murimi, the main suspect in the gruesome murder of 24-year-old Velvin Nungari Kinyanjui, who was sexually assaulted and killed.
Steps and labored work lets out a secret that Joy would rather not share. The sexual abuse has resulted in a pregnancy, a protruding stomach, a constant reminder of the torment visited on her young life.
Enough. We've heard enough about this. It's too much. Men and women are dying in silence, literally from depression and suicide, and dying from actual acts of rape. It's a violent, criminal thing. How are we not talking about it? How can you ask me not to share this? Why are you feeling ashamed on my behalf, and why should I be ashamed that I was raped? It doesn't make sense. And I'm going to talk about it. Because you know what?
Yes, it's not so good evening, and in rare cases I get to start with a dark screen, but tonight I feel like it is the right thing to do. You know, we are not here to question, rather we are here to discuss and have a feeling of exactly what is happening and befalling our society. I will call it, just like one of my guests put it in that clip, it is a violent criminal thing. And that's why tonight we are asking you, as we engage on this round table, the question that we must answer, ask, and repetitively follow through is Amka, Zusha, and Mulika. Tonight, tunamulika rapists and what rape is. Of course, I've had this discussion before, but tonight we are having it differently. We've heard about Velvin, a 24-year-old lady in her prime age, losing her life just like that. And we're gonna sit and bury our heads under the sand, just like the proverbial ostrich, and pretend that everything is okay. No, it's not. And that's why tonight we are having this discussion. On panel, I have, of course, Advocate of the High Court, Ken Ashimosi. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
On rare occasions, I'll be meeting advocates, but tonight I'm having this discussion with this gentleman to understand the legal proceedings that do happen when they have to deal with rapists, sexual violence creators, I will call them that. And it's a men's den, so allow me to have a gentleman too, Mr. Gilbert Makomere. Good evening, Gilbert.
Good evening, Ellie. Thank you for having me this night.
You're welcome, sir. And I'm not so sure if it's an evening from your end, because I believe it's the afternoon, but of course it's a dark evening for most Kenyans who have heard these stories before. But who am I to discuss this? You see, gentlemen, today we are having a gentleman discussion, but it will be improper not to involve ladies in this discussion. And that's why I have not just an author, a content creator, a mother, and she has so many titles on top of her, including a healing ambassador and healing from the topic we are talking tonight. That is Titu Kariba Garang. Good evening, Titu.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
We are great.
Fine, thank you.
Me to invade your space.
No, actually, this is not an invasion because this is more of a roundtable thing. Normally, we will have this in terms of a discussion and questionnaire, but we need to have the discussion. Ken, why do you have so many cases coming to courts, especially this time, with issues to do with rape and gender-based violence?
That's a very difficult question to answer. When you say why many cases are coming to court, but I think it's just the moral decay in society, and it's a representation of actually what happens, in our private lives, at our workplaces, in the public areas, and I will just generally say that is the reason why we are having most of these cases. Of course, the triggers that leads to these cases are quite a number. I will not go into the details, but there are many reasons why. This we are every time we switch on our tellies, it's about sexual assaults. And the rape is just one of them. I think sexual assaults are so many if you categorize them. So rape is just one of them. Yeah. So giving you a straight answer might be difficult because I don't know what is causing the rise. But the other reason also is I think the police and the government are doing what they can possibly do to ensure that the perpetrators of these offenses are arraigned in court. And that is why they are on the rise. I think in the past, some of these incidences were being, were being handled from home, a family perspective. Guys will negotiate. But at the moment, the state is taking these offenses very seriously, and we have also seen our local and international and governmental organizations really putting their foot down and saying that sexual offense is unacceptable in society, either affecting women, the men, children, and they're really putting the government to the task. And that is why I think now you can see a lot of cases being brought forth and people actually being convicted. I think in the recent past, we've had very good positive convictions with regards to sexual offenses.
Well, Ken, that's what you will say, and I do not want to dispute that because you tend to handle the cases more than I do, but we see it from the outside world. Before I bring in Gilbert, let me just invite Titu. Titu, before you even stepped on this stage, and I believe for everybody that is watching, you've actually seen a very interesting clip that Titu did on her Instagram stories and of course on Facebook and YouTube. Titu, what informed your decision to actually come out? Is it because government is doing enough, or do you think we need to do a lot of the talking right now?
Honestly, I have actually been feeling ashamed about not talking about it. Most people feel shame about talking about it. For me, it's the other way around because I am currently fully functioning, healed, enjoying my life every day. And there are so many people out there who wonder how do I get there? How do I do it? I have counseled people. I have unfortunately had to deal with suicide cases even. And it just made me feel really bad that here I am doing well, but somebody out there is not, and they're on the verge of killing themselves or something like that. So why not speak out? And I had to make the decision today to just go for it. You know, most times my concern is people's reaction because people don't like to be uncomfortable. They don't want to have to listen to things that make them uncomfortable, and they can react in very violent ways. So doing it on camera also made me feel safer because I don't have to be physically in the room with somebody who might react, not so well to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna discuss more about that. And Gilbert, your opening remarks as we just get this started.
Thank you, Ellie. I would like to start by saying what we've been discussing in our previous show. Just like Ken said, our society is rotten. Our moral fabrics are breaking down and there are no safeguards for it. There's no one who is concerned. We are just out to react, but no one is putting structures in position. As we said in our earlier discussion, most of these things stem from developmental stage. There are stages people miss. There are situations people have gone through life. Because mostly if you look at these cases, we don't study them at psychological angle. We study them from the way we see the cases as they come to us, and we forget most of these things stem from the things we've gone through in life. Because psychologically, people are, we term them rapists. They are out known to have the desire to punish. They want to gain revenge. They want to cause pain. They want to prove sexual prowess. They want to control through fear. But we need to ask, where does this stem from? These are things that are happening in our society. The small things we assume in day-to-day life of people, they end up piling up and becoming a very big thing. And you never know when they manifest and in which manner they will manifest. So some of these things, they manifest in different directions, but because you have not taken time as a society to address the stressors that lead people into these directions, when people are in this direction, instead of even going back to study, where is this person coming from? We meet them at a point of accusation where we want to reprimand the behavior, but we don't want to look at the root cause of the character because it forms in the mind before it manifests into the action. So if we don't look at what happened in the mind and we want to look at the behavior, we are just treating symptoms. Because how sure are you, even if you reprimand or even if you take these people in and they get out, they will not still do the same thing.
Reprimanding, Ken, is that what happens at the laws? I mean, at the law courts? Because sometimes I have a feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, that probably the measurements that are being taken are not punitive enough. Because how do you explain what happened? And sorry to use this, especially to the family, but this is now public knowledge of what happened to this lady that passed on. But do you think we, as you say, the society is rotten? Yes. To what extent is the rot? Is it also through the justice system? Because the justice system seems not to be addressing this effectively. What's your take, Ken?
I think, as an officer of the court, it will be unfair to say that the justice system is not doing what it's supposed to do, because I need you to understand how the law works, especially when it comes to a criminal offense. The judiciary is an arbiter. What I mean by that is, it just entertains the matters that are brought before them. And it is the role of the police I think this is a whole chain. The complainant, first of all, the victim, how he reports the matter, then the police, how he captures the matter in the charge sheet. Then, as you know, it's the role of the DPP to present this kind of cases before court. So you know, when a matter or an offense, any sexual offense is brought before court, you know, the law treats the accused person innocent until proven guilty, right? I think that is very important for all of us to understand, that before the eyes of law, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And I've had people question why such people are being represented in court. Some people ask me why do advocates represent such people in court? But the Constitution is also very clear that every accused person has a right to legal representation. And so from that basis, then I will say the judiciary, the law, the state is doing all that it can. It's also very difficult to prove some of these cases because, you know, you are handling, we have a very skewed understanding of what rape is. And you need to understand the definition of rape under the Sexual Offences Act. And, you know, some people think it's only when someone is, you know, it's violent and, you know, there's been the victim has been beaten or attacked. But you will be surprised that the Sexual Offences Act is a very good law. And it's for that reason that I say we have to be we have to balance our judgment when you're saying maybe the law is not doing what it's supposed to do. But the law is there. We have a very good Sexual Offences Act. Of course, there are areas that can be improved, but we have a very good law that is in place. And even the penalties, when you look at the penalties, are very severe. Because I think, you know, from the top of my mind, I doubt if there's any penalty that is below a period of 10 years for these sexual offenses. So you'll find that if you're convicted for any sexual offense, then you are looking at a minimum of 10 years. And the penalty is severe to life imprisonment. So I wouldn't fault the law because they have put, you know, all the measures in place to ensure that if any accused person is presented before court and the person is found guilty in the eyes of the law, then the punishment is very severe. So quickly, let me just define for you what rape is as provided for by the Sexual Offences Act. And it says, you know, rape is defined to mean the intentional and unlawful act that causes penetration with one's genital organs without the other person's consent to the penetration, or if there's consent, then it is obtained by force or by means of threats or intimidation of any kind. So if you look at it, if you look at that definition, it's very wide just to capture so many things. And there are many types of rape. I think you'll also need to appreciate that there is also marital rape, you know, and such things happen in our homes and we don't report them because of, you know, ignorance of the law. But consent, where there's no consent, then any sexual act that takes place without consent of the other or intimidation qualifies to be rape. So I think in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is the law is in place. I think the judiciary is doing all it can to ensure that these perpetrators, when brought to court, and they're found guilty, they're sentenced. And I think in the recent past, you've seen that the judges and magistrates have been really giving strict and harsh sentences to these perpetrators.
Thank you, Ken. And I hope all of us are noting these things down, because I want to bring in something. And before I do that, and of course, I'll be inviting you, Titu, to speak about it. Let's take a look at this piece that Titu did.
I was raped. Actually, as a child, I was sexually abused, and as a young woman, I was raped. Not once, but multiple times. It's not news, really. I post about it, and guess what? I've written about it in detail in my book. So guys, get a copy so you know where I'm coming from. But I never say the words out loud. I was raped.
We never say out the words loud. Why is it they do? Why don't we, as probably victims of such violences, never say it loud? Until recently, that actually it caught us our attention. I don't say that the case of Velvin is any different from the rest, but it caused a lot of uproar in the social media space, and the likes of Ken are saying it is not just how we have to work it around. There is some due process to be followed. But why is it we still keep our lips shut after rape has happened? Titu.
I would associate it with the fact that it's a sexual act. And as Africans, we don't talk about sex. First of all, that's taboo. So when you now bring in the fact that somebody defiled you sexually, double don't want to talk about it. There is the shame associated with the fact that, well, you had sex with somebody, and that's how a lot of people think about it. Well, you had sex with somebody. The idea that it was forced or whatever else comes later or at some point. But there's that shame, first of all, that it was sex, I believe, and then now to want to put it out publicly, if you go and report it to the police and so on and so forth, it's in the papers. My family, my friends, the church, whoever, the school, everybody will be talking about the fact that you were caught up in a sexual encounter with another person. So I think that taboo subject of sex, first of all, has a very heavy bearing on why we don't talk about it. Because we can talk about any other crime, and in detail, and we'll talk about it, over drinks. Oh, did you hear about the murder of so and so, and go into detail. But when you're talking about a sexual act, we don't want to talk about that, first of all. And now on top of that, to associate it with a crime, it makes people uncomfortable. And so saying it out loud, first of all, there's still that connotation of shame. I was having sex with somebody, but that's not what I was doing. I wasn't saying, hey, let's me and you go do this. Something was taken from you. You weren't in agreement, but the shame still lingers. It's still seen that way. And it's sad. I think we have to, first of all, start talking about sex openly, and then start talking about sexual violations, because you can't talk about one but have the other one be taboo to talk about. So the whole subject just has a dark cloud over it, and people don't know how to address it. I think that's one of the main issues. Not many people will talk about sex, one, and then two, talk about you are forced. You know, it's people don't want to touch it, unfortunately.
It's a taboo. We have a situation, and unfortunately, I'm not able to recollect all the details about the right of these notes, but I'll paraphrase it. And this is what he said, Ken, and of course, Gilbert, that you ask me to stay home so that I don't get raped. And when I stay home, probably the hard's boy rapes me. You ask me to dress properly. And because I didn't get dressed properly, that's the reason I was raped. You asked me to stay home and not leave my room because it was safe. But then my brother or father actually raped me and defiled me in my own house. How do you explain this? Because Gilbert mentioned issue to deal with dealing with symptoms from the past. Is this the case, Ken and Gilbert? We can start with you, Gilbert.
Earlier, as I said, some of these things are a sum total of what you've been through in life. And in our society, sex is sacrilege. We don't get to discuss it openly. Those who are raped, psychologically, they react differently, but mostly they'll have a feeling of shame. They'll feel humiliated. They'll feel confused. They will have fear in them, and they will also have rage. So what happens after this? They walk through after it has happened. Coming back to what you asked, you asked me to remain home and still I'm at danger. It starts from the society. What have we taught our men to see women like? If we teach ourselves to see women as sex tools, that is what you see. Yeah? Because when you see a woman and you are imagining this is a sex tool, what goes through your mind? If we teach our society to see women as our sisters, as our mothers, that is what we will see. We have failed in ensuring that the right thing is taught. The right image is put into the society. When what we see all over social media is painting women as sex tools, what do you think is forming in people's mind? Because you are a sum total of what you interact with in your environment, 75%. So if 75% of you on daily basis, what you are seeing is vilifying women as sex tool, is vilifying women as you make women look good when they are naked. These are the small kids you are teaching them. Next time when they don't have an opportunity, they'll be told that I have been taught to know you are a sex tool and I have command over you. We make a society feel that a man is better than a woman. Women should be at home with kids and everything. We don't have a society which is telling us everyone is important. Our lives are very important. We have a society where such things happen and they are hidden. They can't be exposed. The perpetrators can be brought to justice. And when they are brought to justice with our corruption, I agree with Ken, we are doing much. But the fruits are less. Because just listen at what Ken defined to us. What is your burden of proof without the third party? You can be put in a context. How do you prove? That is a question you'll be asked in court and you've been raped. Where do you turn to if that is justice asking you to prove that you've been raped? While you know very well in your conscience you've been raped. But now the way we have defined our law, it needs someone to prove. So if they can't prove you are raped and someone goes scot-free, how do you expect to handle that person psychologically? So these things stem from our society. Those who sit down to write those laws, are they seriously upright in their morals? What's the meaning of going to parliament to do those laws and then you come out here and you are vilifying women? What is that? Yo tunajidanganya bana. You know, we need to address this thing and to address bila kujidanganya kwamba we are living in a society where we respect women. We respect women in words, but not in actions. Have we respected our mothers? Have we respected our sisters? First of all, charity begins at home. If you can't respect your mom, your sister, your brother, your aunt from home, uta respect aje huyo wa nje. If you can come out openly and you are vilifying a woman before public, and then the next thing you are in parliament doing a law against those who does the same thing. So what are we doing? We have made it easy to make women look like they are trash. We have made it easy to make women look like they are items to be used. And then on the other hand, we come crying, we need to protect our women. No, our society needs reconstruction. I think that is where we start from. If we don't reconstruct from the tenets of the society, what makes a society, we will be failing. However best the laws might be, they will be the best in books. But when you come to application, the same people who does those things at home in darkness, they are the same people who are expected to serve justice. How do you do that? So I think it starts from home. Our society is rotten, and that's what we need to talk about. Where has the church failed? Where are the civil society groups? Tito alone will not manage to talk to 40 million people. She needs other people coming out to say this is wrong. And we call it in its own definition. Let's not define it. When we start defining and making it look like it should be this instead of this, and we should make it look like this so that it fits the definition of other people, that's where we go wrong. Rape is rape. Sexual assault is sexual assault. When we start applying law, when you go to lawyers now, you meet Ken and another lawyer arguing about how we want to prove someone was raped before them. How will someone feel? Do you know that guilt, that shame, that humiliation, that fear? It doesn't warrant anything. What if you go to justice and money is used? How many people have we seen? They have done this thing, they have been arrested, gone to court, money used, gotten out. And then they come back to do the same things. Nothing will be done because our system is rotten. If we start from what makes our system, man, will be fun. But not unless we sort out our system, we'll continue having such engagements and just talking for the sake of talking, but nothing will come up.
That's a passionate take from Gilbert, and I know Ken is there ready with his answers, but I want to discuss that more with Ken, and of course I want to bring in Titu to actually talk to us about, renewing ourselves and getting out of this whole mess that happens. And we have the comments from the viewers, but before we do that, let's just find out what is Wakili 101 all about in a moment.
So Wakili 101 is a virtual legal office, if I can just summarize and use, try to make it as simple as possible. So the app gives you an opportunity to interact, know the basics of the law, interact with an advocate, of course, duly registered advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And it's 100% owned by our law firm, and it's managed by an advocate. So if you have a phone, all you need to do is go to Google Play or App Store, download it, register and log in as a common user. It has two interfaces, so you log in as a common user, and it will give you plenty of legal guides on basically everything. What you've just talked about. It will give you a summary of what you need to do when you're thinking about writing a will, when you're buying property, when you are dealing with child maintenance issues, you want an affidavit, so it's an amazing platform that we created, and we're still working on it. We're still getting feedback. We did a soft launch last year in around November, October. We haven't even started marketing it, but we have almost 1,000 downloads and active users. So I encourage the audience to download it. Chat us up. Soon we'll be introducing a call option. So you can call in, and then it's a post-paid kind of service. So if you want to consult for 500 shillings, you pay upfront. You ask me all number of questions. When your credit runs out, the call also terminates.
+254 725 848 465. The name is Ken Ashimosi. He is from Mark and Partners Advocates, and make sure to write him an email in the event you need more legal advice. Then you can pick it from there. Remember, log on to Google Play, and of course, equally log on to Play Store, App Store rather.
For those guys who have iPhones,
iPhone users, that is, and get a taste of Wakili 101. Let us know in your feedback how you feel about it. If they have captured most of the questions you will ask in a daily basis from your attorney. Wakili is a Swahili word that simply means my attorney, if I'm not wrong, especially the English and the American speaking people. Indeed, get on to Wakili 101 and get a taste of it. We are discussing rape, and it's not just about to go anywhere anytime soon. And I have a great panel tonight because we are discussing the real issues. Just before we took the break, I was talking to Gilbert Thitu and of course Ken Ashimosi from Mark Advocates. Ken, Gilbert has said you always bargain with people's lives when you have to decide who goes to jail and who stays in. I will put it in the biblical approach. Give us Jesus or Barnabas. And most of the time you end up keeping Barnabas and letting Jesus die on the cross. Why is this the common practice? I know you will tell me it is the practice of the law, but why must you discuss this anyway?
I think in all fairness, every person, the accused, the complainant, needs to be heard, because as much as I understand where Gilbert is coming from, we need to approach the law, or we need to approach these issues with from a different perspective, because it's not as easy as it sounds. I think you've seen situations in the recent past where a man was convicted for sexually assaulting the daughter and sentenced to life, Then a couple of years later, the daughter comes and says, you know what, I framed my dad. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of that man who went through the process. It was a scheme that got him behind bars. So, and that is why I'm saying, and I'm insisting that, and the law is very clear on this, that everyone before the law is innocent until proven guilty. And that is why it's important that both parties are heard, their case, they explain their case, they convince the judge beyond reasonable doubt that this issue happened. And it's two ways. The example I've just used is two ways that we've had, and that is not just the first matter. I think in my practice, I've come across such 3 different matters where someone is wrongly accused for having sexually assaulted a lady, and in one case it was a man who said the boss, who was a lady, sexually harassed him, yet it was a lie. So I understand. I get to understand when Gilbert is saying it's the system, but no, for me, I've always taken a very different opinion about on this matter, and not just this matter alone, but many matters where we want to point the finger to the system, but I don't think that is the case. We are the ones who perpetrate and do these acts that we're talking about. It's not the system. It is the individual. It is you and I, Ellie. It is you, Gilbert. Some ladies, yes, it's Titu. It's not the system that breaks the law, right? Yep. The system is in place to ensure that everyone is protected. The accused, the complainant, and the law should be applied uniformly, and that is what is called justice. I think I need to also emphasize that as much as we're talking about rape, let's not forget that the victim can be either a man or a woman. And rape and sexual assault are never the victim's fault, no matter where it happens. You cannot say it is because the girl was attractive, it's because the man was attractive, it's because he had worn a muscle shirt, it's because he had worn a tight skirt. No, that is a justification. I think it all ends up with the individual, the discipline, what is right, what is it morally right as a husband? Let me use this example. To force your wife to have sex with you just because she is your wife and she's not in the mood, or she's not she's not in the right situation or circumstance to engage with you sexually. I think it's also a societal thing, because you see the man feels they have a right to do whatever they want to their women. And that is why I was saying it's not just the violent rape that we are supposed to be talking about. The definition of rape is very wide. Ellie, Gilbert, what happens when your wife says no? Do you force them? And if you do you know that is a sexual offense? Do you know that is rape? If you go ahead and do it without their consent. So the issue here also that we need to look at all the ingredients. Consent. The case that we're talking about here, you'll say these were consenting adults, but the act that was done on this good lady that led to her unfortunate demise, it's unacceptable, it's wrong, and it should be condemned with the strongest words and strongest action, and the law should be applied to the latter. And that doesn't mean that the man should not be heard, because what is happening we have already crucified him. We are not giving him an opportunity to explain what happened. We don't know what has led to this, because like Gilbert correctly said, we need to look at the underlying issue. What happened? What triggered this issue? Because this is just victim one. How many has he assaulted, and how many have not come forth? Like Titu has said, sex is a taboo in our society. These things happen in our homes, like you've correctly put it. our women, our sisters remain home, then they are sexually assaulted. No, they can't report it to anyone. They can't even share it with their mothers. They can't share it with their sisters because it's a taboo. No one wants to talk about it. And if it's talked about, then fingers are pointed. When it gets to court, I know the system is not fair, but there's no, I don't think I don't know any other better place or any other better way to deal with such issues, because we can't just, the law, they can't just trust your word. They have to hear the other party. So I will appreciate if Gilbert would have gone ahead and said, maybe this is how this matter should be handled.
Thank you, Gil. Sorry to cut you short, because I know you really want to make sure that the courts are well represented as an officer of that arm. But let me bring in Titu. And Titu, in your practice as a healing ambassador, and when we say healing ambassador, it's because Titu is not just speaking about far-fetched stories. This is something that has happened to her. And for you to come forward and actually decide to address and equally counsel other victims, I don't know if victims is the perfect word to use here, but I will use it in this case. How then have you seen the trends? Is it something that Ken is mentioning, that sometimes there is a history behind it, especially for those who perpetrate these sexual offenses against others, including the boy child being actually sodomized? Titu.
Wow. When I was listening to Gilbert, I heard him talk about women being sexualized and all that, and I remember thinking in my head about all the men who have come to me and confessed that they've been assaulted, they've been raped by their aunties, by the nanny, by a cousin. There are men who've also said, maybe I'm tired, I come home and my wife won't take no for an answer. And she will start to touch me and mount me. And I didn't want it. So rape is not gender bias. It happens to everybody and anybody. It happens to grown men and women and children. So just to make that clear, that we are not saying it's men against women. It is all of us against a crime and a criminal act. So that being said, we can't look at a system and think it's just women. What is the unfortunate thing is men will feel even more ashamed if they come out to say that I was raped. People will laugh. And that, I don't understand that, because the double standard is very high. I mean, it's shameful, because a woman came out and said she was raped and we laughed. That would be one. I mean, we would never hear the end of it. But if a man comes out and says, yeah, my wife rapes me, people will laugh. I think that, first of all, is a problem. When we talk about rape, people need to understand that we're not talking about women being the victims. And men are also sexualized. I've seen so many advertisements where I'm like, oh God, the man is walking around and the shirt comes off and the sweat drips down his chest. I mean, we've seen all these things. So it goes both ways. And we are sending the wrong messages to both ends. When it comes to the law, as much as I have been raped, and I've said that, I find that it is doing the work. I mean, it's doing a good job. Like Ken said, there are people out there who will just have something against you, a woman, and she'll be like, I just want to get this guy. What's the best way to do it? Your boss didn't give you the promotion, whatever the case is, and she's going to accuse the man of rape. It's a very serious thing to say, because unfortunately, Men will fight, fist fight, but women, we fight with words. We go for your reputation. We go for things that can really hurt you. So if I come out and accuse a man of rape, we tend to just believe women. And thank God for the law, because we have to prove it. Because if you came up to me today and as a mother or as a wife and a sister and said, your brother, your husband, your son raped me, I will obviously be like, no, that's not possible. I'm not automatically going to side with the woman. I'm going to be like, no, we've got to prove this. And it's important that that happens. We can't just side with the victim, unfortunately, because like he pointed out, sometimes people just have a chip on their shoulder, they're upset at you. And it's insane. Also, the law is going to clash with cultures. We have cultures where it's actually okay for you to give your daughter at 13 or whatever to be married. That's another problem, statutory rape. We have the same thing he was saying. You're married and you're taught that in your culture, when you want sex, the woman should be ready to give it to you. So when the woman doesn't give it to you and you take it by force, then how can it be rape? Because this man, he has been taught culturally that that's what happens. So the law is also going up against cultures. So we have to bring it back to the home. The home, at the end of the day, is the foundation for the nation. The issue becomes that we will ask people to take driving lessons and pass a test for them to go out and drive on the roads. But we don't require the same of people who are getting married or starting families. And we don't know how stable mentally, emotionally, or whatever these people are. So you might find a woman who has suffered traumatic, sexual acts, or a man will get into marriage and they'll continue this. There will be a situation where the man or the woman assault their own children, and it stems from something having been done to them. So there's so much work to be done. And I take pride in the fact that I am a housewife because I understand what happened to me as a child, and I want to have that time with my children. I want to watch them, I want to teach them. I want there to be the understanding that there's always the mother in the house. So whether it's the gardener, the watchman, whatever, they need to know that it's not going to be that easy to take advantage of my children. Not everybody has that luxury. Not everybody has that because we have to go to work. We are in a situation where we need 2 incomes, or more. So we have to educate the family, the parents, and let them know that this is wrong. Also, again, what do you do in a case where, for example, a student brought me a case and she said that my father sleeps with me. And he says that if I don't continue having sex with him, he will not pay for my school fees. And then I was like, okay, is your mother aware? And she said, yes, my mother is aware. The mother was angry with the daughter because it was like a co-wife situation, And when she wanted to report it, the mother was like, don't you dare, because the man is the breadwinner. She would rather the girl go than the husband, because without him, we will not survive. There's so many things that have to be taken into consideration. How does a daughter tell the mother that your son raped me? There's so many things to think about that when we come out to speak, families are being destroyed. When you steal something from somebody, you can probably get that back. Mm-hmm. But when a sexual act is committed, you can't give back what you took from that person. So rape, most of the time, I see it happening between people you trust. there's somebody you knew. And that becomes a big issue because a lot of times it's within the family. So how do you deal with these things? You know, are you going to be the reason your father is in jail, your brother is in jail, your mother is in jail? There's so many things that run through our minds when we have to come out and report it. And we have to start from the home. It's not in the system, it's from the home. We have to let people know. Our boys know growing up, this is how you behave. Our girls know growing up, this is how you behave. And you cannot force yourself upon somebody. You cannot take that from someone. You just can't. Oh, God, it's
Oh, David, listening to
hard.
you, I'm with no words, especially with the case you just mentioned. But I saw Ken equally shaking his head with that story. But these are things that actually do happen in the society we live in, and that reminds me of the other day. There was a lot of backlash online when ladies were asked what would they do if men were to be done away with for a few more hours out of earth. To you, Ken, as a man, do you think the only solution to actually tame the unending you know feelings for men to actually take advantage of women, and I know you mentioned men equally get taken advantage of, but let's focus on the women for tonight, because tomorrow we're going to talk about the ladies, the men. What then should be done to men? Should we just disappear and give them a happy life thereafter? After you, I want to have T2 to actually correspond to that. Ken, if you can fix your mic, please.
Sorry, you're putting me on the spot there. But I think for me, like I've said, this is a personal, it's more of a personal thing, you know, as a man. What do you understand your role as a man? And I think taking men out of this world will not make the situation better. Because you see, there is also, and the Sexual Offences Act is very clear. Sorry, I'll keep on quoting the law because it also says
that's why we have you here, sir.
It also says there's same sex, you know, kind of sexual assault, right? So the fact that you'll remove all the men does not mean these offenses will not continue being perpetrated. So, of course, men are more, if you look at the numbers, we are leading, unfortunately, when it comes to sexual assaults. But I think what we need to fix as men is just trying, you know, being morally upright, knowing being disciplined, knowing, you know, understanding that it's wrong for you to force, to intimidate anyone, either if it's a man or a woman, into committing or engaging in sexual acts without their consent. I think that is what I can say, because it's not as simple as you think. It's not a simple topic, like as Tito said. It's very complicated. I think sex is a very a difficult thing to deal with, even from a religious background. I think that is one of the sins, if I can use that word, that it's continuously mentioned in the Bible, and it's a very strong passion to resist. It's something that it's really difficult even to explain. You know, where what happens when you are overwhelmed by that desire. So it's not as easy as you'll want to say, let's do away with women or let's do away with men. No, it's something that is in us. So it's just taming and trying to do what is right.
Uh, I know Gilbert is back. He was a little bit off screen. Gilbert, you want to say something before I bring in Titu? Because Titu is really intending to tell us something about doing away with men on Earth, planet Earth. Quickly, Gilbert.
I'm happy. All of us concerned that our systems are not in place. Morally, we are not upright. Can us we talk solution, but first of all, we need to solve the problems before we propose those solutions. Let's start conversation from the family unit because it starts by disrespecting. It starts from the family unit before it springs out to the other people who doesn't know you. What do we need to do from the family unit? It starts from the parents. It starts from your elder brothers and sisters who are there with you at home. And what happens if they don't have knowledge about it? That's why I talked about the system. It's up to what's the meaning of a government for us to offer us services. If what are the needs of a society? You know, those are things that the government should be identified. What are the needs? So that we don't react to issues. We stem the issues from the root.
Sorry, Gilbert, we're really struggling to get you. I think you have to fix your audio a little bit. It's really difficult to get you. If you can fix that, sir. Titu, should we do away with men and then have a beautiful life thereafter?
No, absolutely not. I love men. I think obviously we need them. We can't survive without each other. The thing is, again, it's not men that are the issue. It is the crime in itself. Men are not the only ones committing this crime or any crime. So doing away with men will only remove some of the people. You'll still be dealing now with the women who commit these acts. You see, when I'm walking alone, yes, I'll feel vulnerable if I come across a certain man who looks a certain way. I'll feel vulnerable. But at the same time, if I come across the same man and I'm walking with my husband, I'll feel secure. So men can be the threat, but they can also be the security. That's for me. I was just hearing what Gilbert was saying and thinking about how this issue of the FGM has been handled. They go in there, they go to the villages or they go to these cultures that practice these things and they start talking to them in a language they'll understand and explaining to them why it's wrong, why you shouldn't do it, and so on and so forth. I think that's really what we need to go into the family, go into every situation and start to explain to people what is rape, because like I said, it's a wide thing. People don't understand what it is. So what is it, and what are the various ways and cases that have come up about rape in marriage, in families, so on and so forth, and educating people from the family level and telling them this is what it is. You cannot go around doing ABC, because there are cultures, like I was saying, that may have gray areas or have a green light, even if the law doesn't permit it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, this is how we do it where we come from. I remember being in South Sudan and they had these big billboards, huge billboards. And it had a little girl in a wedding dress, and it said, girls can grow up to be many things. Or is it girls are many things, but a teenage bride she is not, something like that. And they were running campaigns about letting this girl grow up, stop marrying children off. And that's basically where it has to start, because a lot of people will come and say, well, in our culture from way back, we married girls off when they turned 13, but now the laws have changed. So we have to keep educating people from the home, have PSAs, whatever it takes, tell both men and women, you cannot do this. This is a crime. And if you're caught doing this, so on and so forth. Abolish these things from your culture, abolish them from your, your, is it your mind or whatever the case is, and then put out programs for people to heal from the trauma as well. Because people will do what they know or what they've been taught to do. So you have to unlearn and teach them something else. But you also have to heal people. A lot of times, some of the people who are raping have been raped. It's a vicious cycle. So you go and you take a man who's a rapist, you put him in prison, and then he gets raped in prison. It's just insane. It's too much. And that's why I'm saying it's too much. It doesn't work that way. We have to correct from the mind. Once you can change the mind, you can change the behavior. But we have to educate them. And we can't just say the government, the government. The government cannot come into your house and raise your children. It cannot come into your house and discipline your husband or your wife. But we can come together, all of us, not just men, not just women, and take responsibility and say, listen, we have to do better. We have to talk about things openly. We have to tell people, you can't be beating your wife because she didn't have sex with you. Ladies, we need to be like, come on, that joke isn't funny. You can't force the man, you can't coerce a man by, if a man rejects you, for example, for women, you can't go like, oh, so you're gay, I dare you to sleep with me and prove to me that you're not gay. That's also a form of harassment. A lot of people don't understand that. Ken was saying by manipulation or, certain ways that rape still happens. We need to all be able to call each other out and say, that's not the case. You can't do that. You're harassing someone. So it's upon all of us. When you see something going wrong, say something, tell the person, call them aside, educate, children from the get when you see something off. Not just how you should treat women, but treat all people. Because what if now you start saying, okay, we're going to respect women, so now let's start raping men? You don't want to tip the scale again, because it happens. We did that whole girl child thing, and then the boy child was left behind. So what if we keep saying women don't rape women, and then they start raping men? So we have to balance it out. We have to really talk to people and say, this thing, even between animals, you can't do it, because we've seen that again. You cannot force yourself in any way, shape, or form upon anybody or anything.
Thank you, Thetu. Thetu, I'm going to give you again one more chance because we are closing out of time. We really cannot exhaust this topic tonight. We have a second part of this topic tomorrow night. So do join us same place, same time with Nyokabi Kamau. Meanwhile, Thetu, the book you've written, in 1 minute, what does it talk about, and where can these people actually find it?
All right, so here's the book. I don't know if you can see it, it's a bit bright, but it's called My Crown of Beauty for Ashes. Basically, it talks about my journey from childhood through sexual molestation as a child all the way to my adulthood, and how I had to come to understand what molestation is, what rape is, that it wasn't my fault, that it needs to be talked about, and that even after it has happened, there's life after that. You can heal fully, you can have a happy marriage like I have, you can even enjoy a healthy sex life. And there is hope for people out there. From this book, I've also created a workbook and an online course that will be ready next month, where anybody, men, women, can come, and we go through weeks and weeks of digging through these things and healing. Understanding also that even if it's not your fault, unfortunately, it is your responsibility to do the work so that you can get where you want to get. Hating men is not going to get you better. Hating women is not going to make you feel any better. Drinking, taking drugs, all those things, they're not going to help the situation. You have to go through the process. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for having me. You've been such wonderful gentlemen, and there should be more of you out there. Thank you for doing this work. It's important. It's very important. And Ken, I stand with you with the law. It's very difficult. And I thank you for the work you're doing for us as victims and survivors of sexual assault. It's not easy. It's not easy. We need to educate people on what to do. For example, after I got raped, the first thing you want to do is take a shower. But that's one of the things they say is the biggest mistake because you're washing away evidence, unfortunately. Unfortunately. So again, it's a difficult place to be, even when you're the officer or whoever it is, and you're trying to talk to somebody and say, okay, what happened? How do we collect evidence? And these are things we're not taught, you know. We just need to also educate people on what to do once you're raped. Immediately go to a hospital, go to the police station, do not take a shower, do not change your clothes, you know, all these things. Just go, because that is the evidence that they need to catch this person. And also understand that there is a danger in putting somebody's name and face out there before we can prove this case. Because God forbid that person is lynched and then later you find out that that wasn't the case. So there also needs to be a place for us to sit back, you know, control ourselves and hopefully let the law work. I know it doesn't sound great, but you don't want to go ahead and commit one crime, another crime on top of the other one, you know. And we definitely need to establish institutions that are going to also help the victims heal, not just catch the person who did it. There's two people involved here. So we need to, yes, catch the person who did it, but also work to helping the person who was raped recover and bounce back. And I hope to be and plan to be part of that.
Thank you, Tetu. Montgomery, can we get you just your closing remarks, because unfortunately we're out of time.
Am I okay now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you guys for the show. I'm happy to have been here for the show. What I want to say as my closing remark, this is something that is in our society. It stems from the vices that we're experiencing in the society. I think the best thing for us going forward is to start doing the training, the talking, the conversation. Let's start the conversation from the grassroots. Doing the conversation from Nairobi, it will not help us. Let us engage the society, the communities. Let us understand them. Let the community also understand the advocates so that we get to know what is happening. For those, the proponents of law, let people understand, because some people will meet the law when they are victims or they have been reported. That's the time they get to meet the law. Let people understand the law so that before you even try to do something, just know these are the repercussions of my action. Like what happens in like this developed world, this happens from the community. Government allocates money so that someone like Tito who has the power and the knowledge to go around this topic, she has been funded, given opportunity and space to go into the community and help others know about how and when. So we lack that in terms of our society, and that's what we should be advocating, so that people in grassroots get to know it. Because if you take someone from Masai who believes that their girls should be married at 11 years and take them to somewhere where they don't believe so, they will not understand, as she said. those people need to be told, yes, we understand your point of action, but this is what the government said. This is what the world is after. This is a small kid. We need to protect them. So they are like, by protecting them, we advocate that you take them to school. And then also other thing we have discussed in our previous show on Tuesday with James about the predisposition, like you are born with some issues that affect through the life and they don't get to be handled. So you get the people who perpetrate these sexual offenses. Some of them are affected psychologically. They are after something. Something is in them that needs to be discovered that this person is suffering from this particular problem. They need to be helped because a manifestation is such acts like a sexual assault and rape. And mostly our society has been altered in a way punitively punish. That's why we run to what the law says and we'll be able to confirm who did what and who never did what. So if we take the approach of discovering what people are going through, more so during this COVID, man, guys are going through serious mental stress. If we don't take care about the mental stress, what will happen because of the stress people are going through are such evil acts that will start stemming in from our society. So it will be better as a society. We continue advocating as proponents on this show. We continue talking to others, whether they know or they don't know. Tito, thank you for the good work you're doing. I know it's not easy to come out and go to the society and tell them about what they should do and what they should not do. Ken, also thank you for what you're doing in law. I know we have good people in the system who are there to ensure the system is working for us, not us working for the system. Thank you a lot. God bless you.
Thank you, Gilbert. Very quickly, Ken, and really you have 1 minute, sir.
Okay, I will keep the 1 minute. Thank you so much for inviting me to the show again. I think it's been quite engaging. Thank you, Titu. I think you're very courageous. You're a very courageous woman, and I am very proud of you. It's not easy to come and share your story, especially having gone through such an ordeal. So I wish you the best with your book. I think let me know how I can order one so that I can support you in spreading your story, in enlightening people. So I think, and also Gilbert, you're very passionate about the moral fabric and how it's been being torn, and our morals as a society are not really reflecting well when such vices come to light. So thank you so much for your sentiments as well. I think for me, my parting shot is that ignorance. They say ignorance of the law is no defense, but I think also ignorance of the law is what is ailing us, because like you've correctly put it, Gilbert, I think the government needs to do more in terms of enlightening the society about these laws, because sometimes we have victims who are going through this on a day-to-day basis, but they don't know where to turn to. They don't know that this, whatever is happening to me, is wrong. So I think we just need to ensure that we spread the word, we spread the knowledge through such forums, and in no time we'll make some milestone toward the right directions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think you're one of the best lawyers I can hire because you make it short and to the point. Let's do this. You can easily get Tito's book via the www.kibanga, right? I got that right? kibangabooks.com, or directly DM Tito on her Instagram. Actually, she's on Instagram. That is Titu Kariba on Instagram and she'll actually be able to hand over the book. So let's do this, and may your healing start very soon, because it's a journey. Remember, this is just but the beginning of this conversation. Tomorrow night we discuss with Nyokabi Kamau about rape, and in this case, ladies, now you have to sit and listen to the men's side of the story. Let's have this discussion, and most importantly, find your Wakili 101, because it's just gonna be the only option for you. For those who engaged us in the comment section, unfortunately we were not so able to go through all the comments, but once again, thank you so much. Kipro Rod, Lucy Kapumpum, we have Shishwini James, and Nancy Magen, Julie Mumia, Irene Duku. The ladies were actually listening to this information because it's more close to the heart. And you know, one of the statistics that are coming out is like 10 cases of rape being reported here in 2020 alone in Belgium every single day. That means something, Ken. And yes, Gilbert, the moral fabric is torn, not just in Nairobi, but across the world. We need to do something about it. And for the rest of everybody, Marcel, Susie Love, Susie, Norina Mbata, Mary Wanjiku, and every single person that we made it to the cast tonight, we appreciate you. Make sure you join us tomorrow, because then we do some conclusions with this discussion. Once again, thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for coming on board. I appreciate you. See you again next time, hopefully, as we discuss a better day on this show that is a late hangout with Ellie. Oh man, sometimes I get confused. I have so many of them. So get your Wakili 101, and it might be your survivor.